Welcome to the Hype Attack Podcast,
where we weigh in on the latest in nerd and pop culture hype.
We are the
We're the excited conversation we all have with our friends
about the nerdy things we love
and geek about.
We are the Hype Attack. I am the hype!
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hype Attack. Pew, 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 pew. And as always, I'm here with Doug,
Howdy.
Isaac,
Duh.
Rudy,
Yo.
and this is your boy Jermaine on the ones and twos. Today we are talking about spoof movies, the imitation, the humorous, the exaggeration of a particular genre of film. But as always, before we get into that, how did you guys nerd out this past weekend?
I mean, God, you know me. I played like 3 different games and stuff like that. But I've been listening to an audiobook set in the Warhammer 40,000 universe called The Infinite and the Divine. And someone suggested it to me. I think this artist or this painter I like. And it's about the Necron, which is one of the 12 major factions you can play in the game. And each of them just have so much history and so much story and so much fluff. And this book has not only is about the Necron, but it brings up some of the other ones in the story and gives you little insights to them. And it's just like I was listening to while I was driving to the river, and it was like just smiling and laughing the whole time. It was good stuff.
I saw you going back and forth with a friend of mine and avid listener Mosier on our Hype Attack page
in the
on the
comment
hobby
section.
thing.
Yeah,
You guys are going back and forth. I lost track and interest in what the fuck you guys are talking about because I didn't know like half of those words.
Yeah.
I'm not actually writing anything down. I scribble. I don't know how to read. But what were you guys going back and forth about?
Well, he had asked me which character I like, and that was the thing. They've started to emphasize certain characters more and more. So he was asking me what my favorite characters, which I don't really have one. There's some like Inquisitors that I've read, like a trilogy of books about, like Ravenor, like that was kind of cool. And then like, the Primarch of the Ultramarines is back. I don't. This is all way too much. I don't want to get into. Yeah.
Are the animated stuff like a one-off for each episode, or is it?
So far, the Warhammer Plus subscription service has had a couple animated series that, like a little one-off things. Some of the series are just literally one episode is its own story, and then they've done a couple like continuing things. But
I do have to watch those. Like those are on my list of things to dive into.
It's good stuff. Grimdark. It's all grimdark, and it's the aesthetic.
I'm like super intimidated by that whole series, but I think maybe I'll. If I do jump into that, I'll probably start with the books.
Do you know what? The
novelizations.
It makes me feel so much better, like when you say stuff like that, because I'm like the fucking dummy amateur. Like I only have one punch card in my nerd card.
Well, I know Star Wars, and like that's where
Understatement.
All my shit goes into. So like, I feel like that's his thing. Is like he knows a lot about that. So I know. To get there, he had to consume a shitload of content, and I'm like, I don't know if I have the fucking energy in me at this stage to take on a whole nother franchise like that, like just to the root.
You having the PS5, that Space Marine 2 game is coming out, and I think that would probably be a pretty good introduction because that's going to be you playing as an Ultramarine versus the Tyranid. The Tyranid are like definitely like the most alien xenomorph
it
kind
looks
of
good.
race. That game looks amazing.
So Jermaine, how did you nerd this week?
I finally watched Shazam. What is it? Fury of the Gods? Or whatever?
I've been meaning to say
how'd you
that.
like
and
that?
I
You haven't
haven't.
watched it yet either?
Nah.
Man. Can we? I mean, is that a shame? I don't know. It's
No, that's not
No.
a shame because it got shit on so hard. I was like, okay,
No,
I think it's undeserving.
it'll be one of those. I get to it when I get to it.
Girls, stop it! It's Jermaine's time.
I didn't really care for it too much. Like it was.
Say that shit on the mic, bitch.
It felt like a filler movie. It didn't have that oomph.
Yeah.
And I was watching it with a friend of mine, Jimmy Bowie, which he was at the house, but he was on his phone. I understand why he was on his phone. It didn't grab me to the point where I was immersed in the movie. It just lacked something, and I'm not gonna say that Zack Snyder essence, but I did look at Jimmy and was like, I miss Zack Snyder.
Yeah, it felt It felt like it was trying to like fall into that cookie cutter blueprint of a superhero movie. Like it knew what it had in the first movie, which was like, no pun intended, lightning in a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We should have got, I'm going to say it, we should have got the Black Adam years ago to deal with all that stuff. But because we didn't, and they made Shazam 2, this movie, for me, it really didn't work. Like it didn't hit, any of my movie beats.
Like, you got to have a good villain to balance out like the hero and stuff like that.
And especially a hero of that power and that magnitude.
I just feel like you just need to bring a little bit of menace.
Raise the stakes a little bit.
I wouldn't say raise the stakes, because that gets real tricky at times. But it's like,
because not every movie can be galaxy-ending world.
But even
world
yeah,
destroying.
yeah,
it
you
doesn't have to go. It doesn't even have to go that way. If you don't feel that the main characters are in danger, then
no.
Where's the?
It's about like making your character not two dimensional. It's about making him like just relatable and stuff like that. Because if you go big stakes, you turn into fucking Supernatural where you're fighting God. Spoiler alert. Thank you, Mosher.
Yeah, but I think what Rudy's saying is like, I think you could have a villain that raising the stakes doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, you're fighting gods. You're like, at least you as the audience have a sense that like, oh, our guy might lose. Like, it's not super obvious. And I think to your point, like the reluctant villains in the Daughters, like that never really works.
No,
I was laughing at about during that movie was, I think my commentary, even on this show, I had brought up the first Shazam, how I didn't like that they already introduced the whole family. They gave everyone powers.
Yeah,
That's how
that
they
was
ended
quick.
it. And then I was laughing when this one came out because what did they start doing? Like, what did they do in this movie? Spoilers, sorry. They started taking away everyone's powers.
you know what made it worth it?
The credits?
Damn. Oh man,
That's Wonder Woman again, though.
I think
take.
the end credit scene, and not the actual scroll of names.
I don't want to say what made it worth it anymore.
Seeing Wonder Woman
Man,
again,
you guys
though,
had
that-
some like
'cause
fucking
I saw it in the
opinions.
theater.
I was
saw it
gonna
in
make a
the-
joke and be like unicorns.
There was unicorns in it, right?
know.
Jesus.
They're like, oh, unicorns, and then it was like there was some fucking badass like dark unicorns.
Yeah. I mean, seeing Wonder Woman
But they
again
like candy still.
was-
They're like Skittles.
seeing Wonder Woman again was
I
pretty fun.
enjoy stupid shit like that. All right, bringing it back. Rudy, how'd you nerd?
Shit, I've been on since Ahsoka came out. I'm on a Star Wars kick. I started rereading a book called Lords of the Sith, which is about Vader and Palpatine on like almost right after they took over the galaxy, and they're kind of still feeling each other out. It's a really good book. I just I picked that back up so I could reread it. Been playing with my fucking new lightsaber. When no one's here, I put my helmets on and masturbate.
Oh, I will make sure to knock next
Regular
time.
weekday.
Oh, the door's locked. If the door's
Oh,
locked,
shit. I think we need a.
just pass.
I know to get in this home.
Should we
I'm
have
gonna
a-
knock.
I'm just kidding.
Like, we need an on-air sticker and then a bait sticker.
Kill
Or
pot
sign.
sticker.
Yeah.
Bane. Yeah, they said. Oh, I did start to watch the Knock at the Cabin.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
that day I had left work late, and they had beat my ass. So I got about halfway through it before I started falling asleep. And Rich was like, "Oh, I'm gonna turn this off. We'll come back to it." That's pretty much it. I think.
I got a couple things, but I'm going to keep it short because I'm just going to like sort of fill it out here. Movies. That's what my corner's about. But I want to get the reason why I want to bring up this movie is because Doug actually saw this movie too, which was Gran Turismo, and I liked it because I'm starting to get into motorsports, and I'm like barely a gamer. I played some of the Gran Turismo games, so I can like appreciate it on that aspect, And Doug, I need your opinion on this, but like the lead actor, at first, did he seem like, oh, this guy's just like a mumbling British dude? But then like he acted his eyes out later on in a part that I won't go too much in detail for fear of spoiling.
Yeah, the whole beginning of that movie, I thought, the acting wasn't the strongest, and then no matter how much, and I told you this already, no matter how much I love video games, and I've always wanted to see a movie about video games, it will never be gripping. It will never make good movie.
Yeah.
It will never make good television. Like, even though I've played Gran Turismo, and I know, like, when they showed like him racing in the game. Like I know what that feels like, and I understand that he was doing something impressive. It just will never make gripping movie. And it was a long intro of him playing that game. And I was just like, oh,
did they try too hard to link up? Like this is what it's like when he's driving in the game, and he makes it feel like it's real life, and then when he's driving in real life, he makes it seem like he's driving to the game, to sort of like link those two worlds. It was really
a little
forced.
bit. Though I do appreciate. I mean, like the big thing about racing in that game is you do learn the courses.
Oh yeah, no, it's the most realistic game.
And so I thought they did a pretty good job with him. Like, oh, I know this lap, or I know this course. But yeah, some of the linkage between like the video game and the real world stuff was a little like
because that aside, keep in mind that it's based on a true story, and I didn't know that. I watched.
You didn't know?
No, I didn't. No. Okay, so I watched the trailer and I was like, "Oh, this is cool" because of drone shots, of course, FPV drone shots, performed by Captain Vanover, Alex Vanover, FPV pilot, world champion racer.
Oh yeah, he's a good one.
And but like, so that really pulled me into wanting to watch the movie. One, my wife loves motorsports, and then two, I fucking love drones. And I love movies that
Wow, powers combined.
boom, and you have this like captivating trailer, and then upon further research, I learned that it was based off of a true story. And if you're not familiar with the synopsis, it's Gran Turismo wanted to recruit the best drivers to actually the best simulation drivers to actually race for real. It's like unheard of. Like it's almost unbelievable, but the fact that that actually happened, you go, all right. The whole movie,
They're off to the races.
yeah, it works in some aspects because it's a true story, but then after that, because it's a true story, you have to dramatize some certain parts of it, and the dialogue kind of falls apart, and the love interest is sort of like thrown in there, forced in there.
if it wasn't a true story or based off a true story, I think everyone would have eye rolled at it.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Yeah. So if you like the game, if you like racing, it does a really, really, really good job of shooting some fucking amazing race sequences. What would you think, Doug?
Yeah.
The race sequences.
The race sequences were really good. As far as like the drone shots, I think there was one shot that I was like, that kind of seemed a little sloppy.
You know what? So I originally thought that, and I'm going in the weeds in this, and no one's going to know who the fuck I'm talking about, but YouTube him. Johnny FPV has done. He used to freestyle first off, and then he then started to do commercials. And you would have seen his work in the Gal Gadot, Dwayne Johnson, and Ryan Reynolds movie Red Notice.
Red Notice, yes.
And his work really focuses on like the cinematic aspect of drone flying.
Yeah, that opening sequence of Red Notice.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
He knows how to compose the shots. He knows how to frame them. Captain Vanover is an amazing pilot. Check his stuff out. Alex Vanover, Captain Vanover, and he can fly just in a way that'll blow your brains out. But as far as cinematic, he doesn't capture it 100% of the time. And he was the pilot that helped with some of the drone shots in Ambulance. And I had a problem with that movie too, with his flying and with Michael Bay like using drone flying sloppily.
Yeah, I think there was just one scene where I felt like there was a lot of dead space. I don't know what to call it. Like he was flying in. I don't know if it's like over the audience or something, and then there was nothing. I think it was a timing issue. There was like nothing, and then the cars came. Like it was too big of a gap.
I feel you.
I mean, that's really nitpicky. It stood out to me.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Yeah, I know.
So, talking about movies that are about people playing video games, how do you feel that stacks up against
The greatest fucking movie of all time.
better or worse?
The most amazing movie
The
ever.
Wizard.
Shame him. Shame him.
Yeah.
I know he's old. Or he's young. He's young. He's not old.
Oh, he's old.
All of a sudden, more hair falls out.
Yeah. The Wizard, absolutely one of the most fun.
What a time.
Ultimately, it was
that-
advertisement for Super Mario
Yes.
Brothers 3.
Adam Savage? Not Adam Savage.
Fred Savage.
Fred Savage, excuse me.
This movie like I grew up watching it, and yeah, it was an advertisement of Super Mario Brothers 3. I think that was like the first time any of us saw even footage of Super Mario Brothers 3. But so Fred Savage's younger brother, who was autistic, I don't know if that was even like the term they used, but certainly autistic.
Please tell me these are a hard R word in there. That seems like
You know what? I
don't know if they would have.
I can't think of it right now, but I'm pretty sure they did.
Like they find out that the house they're going to lose the house or something.
Yeah.
And then they see that there's this like video game tournament at Universal Studios in California. And so Fred Savage and his little brother and then some girl that they picked up, I forget the whole story. It's been a while. They like hitchhike their way across to California so he can go play in this video game. But like on the way, they like stop and like they run into this like bully guy that they're like, oh, my brother can beat you in video games. They go back to his house and he's got the power glove. Like it was and like the whole time, like the older brother who was played by
Christian Slater.
I knew it. Yeah, the older brother is Christian Slater. Like the older brother and the dad like end up like going like across country to find him. Like it's like a coming of age story because Fred Savage and the girl kind of like kiss. It's video games. It's like the underdog story. The dad and the older brother I think end up bonding while they're going across country to like find the kids. It's super heartwarming and yeah, they end up at Universal Studios where they play Super Mario Brothers 3 and yeah, they save the house.
Should I add that to my list?
I would say yes.
Right.
I'm sure you watch like other movies and stuff, right? I mean, was that was the end of your nerd section?
No, I mean, I had a couple of other things as far as like how I nerded, like things that we did, things I'm gonna do. But as far as like shows that things that I watched, I wanted to bring up the Superman show, The Adventures of
My Adventures with Superman.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's really fucking good.
It's really
it's like
good.
I don't know if it's the same animators as Voltron on Netflix, but it felt like
it does.
It feels like it, right? Because
Yes.
Voltron on Netflix, that's if you're a lover of Voltron, that it's such a fun way to introduce like anime and like an American style of anime and Voltron. It's such a fun freaking story. I think Steve Yeun voiced one of the characters. But anyways, point being is I think that same animators did Adventures of Superman.
Studio Mir did the animation for My Adventures with Superman. They're also responsible for Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, yeah.
The follow-up Legend of Korra, Voltron, Legendary Defender.
Oh, I love
Voltron
it.
Season
really-
4 of
Fuck, dude.
The Boondocks.
Oh,
Young Justice Phantoms.
yes.
The new season of Harley Quinn.
Oh, I love
animation.
God, I'm getting chills. I'm getting nerd chills.
Yeah.
I fucking love when like my eyeballs like recognize a certain animation style. You know? Fuck yeah. Continue on. You have more.
Babylon 5, The Road Home.
I still
The
need to
new
watch
animation
that.
that's coming out. The Death of Superman.
Ooh.
Animated Warner Brothers animation. The Witcher, Nightmare of the Wolf, and many more.
All right, bringing it back. I think I talked about it a couple of episodes ago where there was a certain point where I started to kind of get tired of like the serious superhero movies and stuff like that. And this brought the levity back into...
Watch Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Anyways, continue.
Well, I did. No, thank you. The one time was good enough. And it brought like the levity back into like the superhero genre in the form of an anime show. And it does it very well whilst like, you know, paying respects to, you know, some of the same characters, but sort of, you know, changing them up to make them like contemporary. You know, I think they hinted at, because are you up to date with the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, they like sort of hinted at Luthor.
Yeah.
You know, he's sort of thrown in there here and there. But it's enjoyable. If you have Max and if you like animated shows and you like anime, check out My Adventures of Superman. Definitely check that one out.
It's very modern and They've updated a lot of villains and they've updated some of the story,
Yeah,
but
yeah, there you go.
it feels really great. I was going to dive into that a little bit in my How'd I Nerd Out this week, but I almost feel like we could do an entire episode about Superman, so I kind of want to save it because
It's kind of boring, but I guess.
But no, I'll leave that at that.
he's one
Watch
of the
That
one
was
of the
an ass that
originals,
made
and
that
some
noise, too.
some consider him boring, and some of them don't. But
They kind of like changed the story a little bit too to make it interesting, and yet hinting at like older, you know, with Mrs. Spit like pops
yes,
up in there.
yeah.
It's like, well, they really introduced him early.
that little sequence where they like flash to the different animation styles, and then he was a crab.
I did hear James Gunn say that there's going to be a heavy push for a DC animation. Like, I don't know if it's going to be linked to the universe that he's going to create.
He said that his ultimate goal is to have everything linked: video games, the animation, and the live action movies and shows. His goal is to have everything linked, and he even said that some of the stuff that is going to start off as animation, those characters that are in the animation will be voiced by, like, there's going to be crossovers.
Yeah.
That there are going to be animated shows that they'll eventually show up in live action, and they're going to have the same voice actors and everything.
Like Star Trek?
Yes.
Strange New Worlds?
Yes, exactly like Star Trek.
And just real quick, okay, it's gonna be another offshoot.
30 minutes later.
Yeah, I know. IGN posted something recently about Liam Neeson saying in an interview with Conan O'Brien, and it was just like an offhand thing, where he said that Star Wars is a cult, and that there's so many spin-offs and like sequels that it like diluted everything.
Hold on a second before you continue. You listened to the interview, right?
I listened to the whole thing. Yeah,
You listened to the whole thing. Anyone else?
No, I was looking for like more quotes from it.
I've only listened to bits and pieces of it. I haven't seen the whole thing.
the link I sent you starts it from where he starts talking about Star Wars.
I listened to it today, so continue.
So he says it. He says, Star Wars is a cult, and it's so many sequels and everything that it gets watered down. But then he says, "But that's my own thing, right? Like, we can all have an opinion. You know what I mean?"
It like the headline can be completely taken so far out of context.
That's exactly it.
It's not even funny because the way he comes to it is like, yeah, it's like a cult. Like you're just diluting it.
a throwaway
like,
comment.
You're like, but that's just my thing.
Yeah, and
like,
IGN fucking wants to like demonize.
that was a fun interview.
Yeah, dude.
Like
that's the thing,
he
though.
I don't think
interviews
it's
really
about.
well.
I don't think it's about demonizing. It's just about getting the click.
Yeah,
That
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
That too.
They just pull out that, and they could title that specific thing,
sensationalize
and
it.
they know that majority of the people won't do a deep dive, to see, how he actually said it, or the reason
Manufactured
about
outrage.
it, so they're just gonna.
And it wasn't just IGN.
Get that
'cause
clickbait.
I Googled it because I
Okay.
was
Yeah.
trying to deep dive, and
Yeah.
there was a bunch of other sites that
Yeah.
just that was the headline. And he
So
says it's a
whoever
cult.
started
He
that
says
shit,
it's
you're an asshole. You're a straight up asshole. Because Liam Neeson is like the fucking sweetest of dudes. If you listen to Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, found anywhere podcasts are found, and it's the latest episode, and Liam Neeson's on it. What a gent!
Whoever
what
started
a high
that thing,
caliber.
they're gonna die because he has
Yeah.
a
He's a
particular set of
Dude,
skills.
when he talks about how him and Ewan McGregor they turn into like 11-year-old boys.
Ewan McGregor tells the same exact story to in interviews. It was like, they gave us our life stories for the first time, and action. We're
and to hear Liam Neeson be like, so fucking get off his nuts, And there was people in the comment section that are like, yeah, no, we are a cult. I mean, it's true. And as far as diluting, like the sequels and spinoffs and like diluting, it's half right and half wrong because there are some shows you can sort of nitpick it though, where like there's some
lightsaber Isaac to the knee.
No, hear me out, okay? I won't say that like sequels entirely watered it down, but there's little things where you go, yeah, that character sucked, or this story aspect about it sucked. I mean, we talked about it last episode about how our idea of the Clone Wars were another thing, and then they played it out to be something else.
True, but I would also say like
Boo this man. No, I'm kidding.
we've talked about it. I mean, like Star Wars.
We
Is
need
like,
this soundbite.
Star Wars is the greatest example of world building, where everything's taking place in different timelines, different things, and like we've talked about how we want to see more stories that are just even further out. So you can't. It's not really diluting. It's like this is literally a living.
Let me backtrack. Sorry. So it's sorry, Doug. So it's more of like Liam Neeson is this like heavy hitter, lover of cinematography, right? And so I feel I'm interpreting it as him as a lover of movies. Like he's of the era where you have the one movie and everything world building, whatever it lives in that one movie. And whatever you think happened lives in your imagination. There's no sequels. There's no spin-offs or anything like that. That's where I feel personally that his comment was alluding to.
And I get that. And I appreciate that in a way. But Star Wars is not one world or one city that you would get in those old like one movie. This is literally a galaxy with a history and a future. And yeah, the Skywalker saga, I think, was the Skywalker saga was diluted. I think that was a little overplayed. But all the other stuff, the spin-offs and everything, are like not even related, and they're just adding to that universe. Or they're not even adding to that universe. Here's just another story within that world. It's the same, in any movie set in our world, our modern world, is just these individual stories that take place in New York or LA.
Douglas, by what you just said right now about like not adding to something, that's called dilution.
Like the fact that Andor exists doesn't change anything.
Oh, I love
about
Andor. Andor adds to it. Things like Book of Boba Fett fucking take from it.
But it doesn't.
You
but it
can't
doesn't change anything about those movies.
You can't call it dilution if they're expanding the universe and some of it doesn't hit. And fine, not everything's going to hit, but you can't say they're diluting the brand because we want more stories.
Someone's going to hit. I'm going to hit Isaac and his.
And
we just want them to be better.
So
it's not like Superman where they started having him fight weird things.
So
or whatever.
I'm obviously pushing your buttons and like joking, but I going back to it, I think he's not. I don't think Liam Neeson is like a hardcore Star Wars fan. So
no.
his using of the phrase or term dilution doesn't. It's not for like the Star Wars lore. I think it's more for like the movies themselves.
The image I get in my head is him sitting on his porch. And Star Wars is walking by down the street and he's going, slow down! You're going too fast. Star Wars is like, what? Like, I'm just walking here. Like,
get off my lawn.
Like, it's good natured. Like, there was nothing mean spirited about it.
Not at all. No, nothing mean spirited at all. No. So I'm fucking yanking your guys' chains. Doug, I love you.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're going to take you out back and beat the shit out of you when this is over.
Absolutely. We're going to lube up these lightsabers and see if we can get your stomach to shine.
I'm going to tickle your belly button from the inside.
Star Wars is such like a heavy world, right? This whole universe. There needs to be some levity in it. And so you have some other movies that bring levity to that same world, such as Spaceballs, a spoof movie, a parody.
Yes.
Segway.
Well done.
Dude.
Well
Funky
done.
as shit.
Yeah. Spaceballs is a great example, and it's an amazing segue, by the way. I mean, we were talking about Star Wars. So, spoof movies and parody movies is something that I don't think they do. I feel like we haven't had a good one in a while, but there was certainly a moment in time that they were making a bunch of them.
I think that's why we haven't had a good one, because they oversaturated that market with especially the ones that were really stupidly titled. Don't be a menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood.
You said that with one breath.
But that one,
you said that with one breath.
that was at the beginning of it all, and I feel like that one kind of held up. I still think like Meet the Spartans.
I knocked up Sarah Marshall and I felt super bad about it. Like,
oh god, I haven't seen that. Okay. So,
yeah.
Don't Be a Menace is definitely not the beginning of it. I think it goes further back than that, and I don't exactly know when that start is, but like Mel Brooks, kind of helped along with a lot of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To cite Spaceballs. Parody movies, spoof movies are that thing that brings the levity to those movies that we know that are very serious. They don't take themselves seriously, and they use those like familiar properties as vehicles to make very tongue-in-cheek, silly jokes, silly humor. Now,
and commentary about like tropes and stuff like that.
Oh, for sure. And a lot of times, like with the later stuff, like you mentioned, like Not Another Date movie, superhero movie, all
Mystery
of
Man.
Ooh, that. So we're gonna get into stuff that is it a parody? Or is it because then you have movies like Scary Movie and Meet the Spartans and Plump Fiction, where
The Starving Game.
Is that one? Oh my god!
Completely parodying existing movies, and then it's almost like when Weird Al Yankovic uses the same melody and then just changes the lyrics. He rewrites the lyrics. That's what some of those movies do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
But then you have so like in the realm of like Mel Brooks, you have Spaceballs, and they make those like really silly jokes, like jam, strawberry jam,
when they jam the radar,
yeah. You know what I mean? So some of that stuff where it's like really silly thrown in jokes of this really cartoony world, but in the Mel Brooks realm, then you have Young Frankenstein, which is in its own way, like it doesn't use that type of like cartoony humor, so to speak. But it's, I don't want to use this word, but like it's a little more grounded with its humor, you know, in its own world. It's on the top of my list of like favorite parody movies, favorite spoof movies.
I mean, one, Mel Brooks, he knows what he's doing, and he's got a couple of parody. But Spaceballs, I want to talk about Spaceballs real quick. So obviously it's Star Wars. They also referenced Alien. Oh, yeah. Right? Check, please.
Oh, no. Not again.
President Bill Pullman as Lone Star?
Yes. And I love that Mel Brooks was told like he can't have Lone Star looking like Han Solo. So what did he look like? Indiana Jones.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
oh,
Mel Brooks he was told he couldn't have him look like Han Solo, so he just had him look like Indiana Jones. He had the leather jacket and everything like that. It's fucking great.
And John Candy.
Yes, and Barf.
Barf. I'm a Mog, half man, half dog. I'm my own best friend.
Yeah. So what works about Spaceballs is I feel like even if you didn't watch Star Wars, like it would hold up. I mean, obviously it's funny if you watched it, right? But if you watch Star Wars, but it holds up, and I think that would be my judgment for all of these spoof movies, all of these parody movies, like the first couple scary movies, Spaceballs, another Mel Brooks movie, Men in Tights, also holds up fine.
So with Spaceballs, what Spaceballs does is that it references everything within the Star Wars realm, and yes, aliens, right? So that's like as far as like cultural references, that's as you know, far as it gets.
Pizza the Hut.
It's so gross. I can never like watch that without getting grossed out.
It's very gross.
I don't know how they did that, but it's just so disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm hungry. Is there pizza? I saw pizza out there. Is there pizza?
There might be a slice left.
I did.
No, there is no pizza.
I did take one note about Spaceballs that said he wanted to call it Planet Moron.
I have
Your
never heard
Schwartz
that.
is as big as mine.
Oh, they referenced Planet of the Apes also, right? In that at the end. Yes.
There's actual, apes on horseback and the
shit.
Mega Maid.
The Mega Maid. Yeah.
Spaceballs.
Oh shit.
Oh shit.
That goes to planet.
Shit.
Mel Brooks is still alive, and you know, it's been sort of teased that he may be making a second Spaceballs.
Oh,
maybe.
I hope so.
Maybe.
I hope.
Because at the end of the first Spaceballs, it's Spaceballs 2, a search for more money.
The search for more money. Want me to get in the sequel?
So they have like real mild cultural references, right? Mm-hmm. The difference between that Spaceballs and like scary movie or date movie or superhero movie is that yes, they reference the date movies and the superhero movies, but then they use it as like a vehicle to then reference everything else within that like 3-year span.
Yeah,
and the comedy doesn't hit. Like I watched for the first time a superhero movie with Drake Bell, who then voiced Spider-Man in the animated series on Disney. Weird, but it's a funny movie. But then there's certain cultural references in there that like I was like, oh, it must have been a thing at the time, and I only knew it because I was alive during the time. So, and then move along to the next thing.
It was a really weird choice to go that route because I remember like Meet the Spartans. One, that name Meet the Spartans is a riff off of Meet the Fockers.
Yep,
which again is like that's a funny movie, but like
how does that
people are gonna forget about it?
How does that relate?
Yeah, and then there was like Britney Spears references and like
my God,
things of like at that time period that.
Oh yeah, it was like a lot of pop culture references.
A lot of pop culture.
Or what about like in Scary Movie Part 3?
Specific.
Fucking Pamela Anderson pops up just like as herself because Pamela Anderson was like a hot big thing at the time.
Yeah, the first two Scary movies I thought were pretty decent because they were riffing on Scream mostly, which was riffing on other horror movies. So it was still just kind of a play on horror movie tropes. But then I think after the first two, they started going to that like very specific at the time cultural references that are never going to hold up.
So I want to take this moment to clarify because we keep saying parody and spoofs. and there's a little bit of a difference.
Learning. Let's go.
Never mind. I don't want to teach people.
No, teach us.
Teach you hard. Parody takes a specific literary work and exaggerates its form and language, often replacing serious subjects with silly ones. Whereas spoof is where a writer takes the conventions of a well-known genre and pokes fun at them. So then where would the aforementioned movies fall into?
I don't know.
Good answer.
I don't know. Fucking.
Do you guys have a particular favorite?
Oh, I was just
spoof
about to
movie?
ask that.
Men in Tights. I mean, I haven't watched Men in Tights in a while, but I know that was a movie that I watched a lot as the youngling. I don't know, something about that. And that was like, I mean, I know it's a Robin Hood story, but I feel like it was definitely a response to Kevin Costner's Robin Hood, because that was the big Robin Hood movie. And there was even that line like, because unlike other Robin Hoods, I can speak with an English accent. But like there was the musical numbers. I don't know, man. Men in Tights was a great, funny
That was
movie.
really good.
Oh, really good.
Those are really funny.
Really, really good.
Anyway, Jermaine, what was your favorite spoof movie? Your favorite parody?
One of my favorite parody movies is Black Dynamite. I
fucking love Black Dynamite.
that fucking movie to death.
Hey, don't be interrupted. It's kung fu.
Shame me.
Huh?
Quick interjection. It was on YouTube for a minute because I was listening to the Nerdist at the time, and they were talking about Black Dynamite, like
Michael Jai White, baby.
Michael Jai White, black exploitation film, and I started to watch it on YouTube, and then they took it off of YouTube, and I've never seen the second half of it.
Shame.
Because you're trash.
I'm trash.
It was a parody of blaxploitation, right? It
Yes,
was
it was a
relatively
parody.
recent.
But
yeah.
it's, everything in that movie was gold. Like the nonsense where they're talking,
Fucking Michael Jai
and
White.
you see the boom mic, everything in there, the lines, the dialogues, the
my kung fu.
characters. Man, what was one of the characters? Was it Chicago Win or
Chicago Win. That's why they call me Chicago Win. I left your ass blowing in the breeze.
There's
then he
just
dies.
so many moments in that movie that's classic. So pretty much it's the movie is so absurd, but it's Michael Jai White's character. His brother dies because the neighborhood liquor supply is poison. So they get tainted liquor, and
Hold on, no, it's malt liquor.
yeah,
in the big 40-ounce bottles.
tainted malt liquor, and on this journey of finding out who's behind all this, like it legit takes him all the way to the White House.
Oh shit!
Where he fights Nixon,
He fights Richard Nixon.
Richard Nixon,
He calls him Tricky Dick.
Tricky Dicky.
Fuck yes!
If you have not seen this movie,
It's
like
it's kind
put
of
it-
long too,
put
but
it up there
worth it.
on not at the very top, but bump it up a couple notches over certain things.
I think I saw clips of it. I was at a friend's house. It was a girl that I liked, and so the whole time I was like, this is when I was like 19 or something like that.
Needless to
So
say, you didn't
it was
get laid.
on the TV, but oh no, absolutely not. No, the doesn't help.
It's a classic though. It's Michael Jai White at his finest, and they even made a animated series.
Oh, what?
like I
based
just
off of
mentioned,
it, yeah.
like I just mentioned earlier, the same studio that was doing all the other stuff, they did that season of.
Fuck.
Do you,
Say it. I know exactly what you're going.
do you remember the scene with panties?
Yes.
Wait, panty talk? Hold on.
Oh my! I wish we could just pull it up, but
What makes it great is that like Michael Jai White.
Hold on. He was going to tell us a panty story.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no. It's
I'm gonna praise Michael Jai White.
I don't remember it word for word or scene for scene, but it's just I don't remember what he said, but I'm not gonna do it justice, but it's just one of those things where he's saying something and you just see the girl's legs like in Muffet Babies when you see nannies, legs, and the panties just slide down her legs. She doesn't even touch it. It's just the way he talks to the ladies that just makes the panties drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite fucking thing there was where they go to NASA, but Black Dynamite's version of NASA is Massa.
Massa. But but this is the thing. It is comedy gold, and it's one of those things. I feel like it had to be an animated form, but I could see it as a movie, and I do believe there was a comic, a graphic novel where Black Dynamite goes to Kung Fu Island.
I hope so.
Sure.
Oh my goodness!
You said that it was the same studio that did the Boondocks.
Yes,
right.
Well, one of the seasons of Boondocks,
Dude, because that show by itself, just like plays on so many like black stereotypes and stuff like that. Voiced by Regina King, who does both Huey and Riley. Oh man, yeah, that show's fucking knockout.
Honestly, to this day, I feel like Boondocks could be as big as The Simpsons, Futurama,
100%.
Family Guy, but
100%.
I don't know why they weren't pushing it enough, or the creator. I forget his name.
I don't know.
Aaron Magruder.
Yeah, Aaron Magruder. He might have went off. Don't quote me. Do your research, like we always say. He might have went off to try to go do something new, and that didn't pan off. And then I think they were going to try to do it again, come back to the series, but then John Witherspoon,
I was about to say,
passed and all this other stuff.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. Who would you cast as John Witherspoon?
I can't.
Gramps.
There's nobody like
I know,
him,
dude.
Man. You can't. Like, he was gold. Like,
if you're not familiar with John Witherspoon, he's the dad on Friday.
There's just
Hot sauce
nobody
on my
like
burrito,
him.
baby.
There's nobody like him. But anyways, that's one of my favorite parody movies. Is
Great
Black
pull.
Dynamite. It is
That's a great pull.
It is money.
Yeah, well
So,
done.
how excited are you for The Outlaw Johnny Black? Which is their new movie. It's pretty much the same cast as Black Dynamite.
Yeah.
Coming out next month.
With Michael Jai White?
Yes.
Fuck.
It's
Outlaw Johnny Black.
It's not. It's a Western spoof.
Hey Rudy, what's your
Billy Boy.
favorite? What's your favorite parody movie?
Blazing Saddles.
Asked and answered.
Yeah.
So,
Fart.
I absolutely do not need to fucking explain Blazing Saddles to anyone
It's so good.
in
You know
this
what?
fucking room.
you are 100% correct.
Mongo knows.
A black sheriff?
Dude, one of my favorite lines.
Fucking Gene Wilder and that shit is
Oh man,
fucking gold.
Gene Wilder alone is
Money.
a powerhouse of comedy.
Yeah.
He's in my second favorite parody movie, Mel Brooks, Young Frankenstein.
Oh,
Gene Wilder.
my favorite white boy fro of all time, Gene Wilder.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you've never watched Blazing Saddles, do yourself a favor, put that on the list to watch this weekend. If you've never watched Young Frankenstein, do yourself a favor and put that on the list to watch this weekend.
Young
And
Frankenstein.
Men in Tights. I like what, 3 of our 4 was Mel Brooks?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, master.
Young Frankenstein was the movie that if we back in the day when we had cable, if that movie was playing on cable on any channel, it was immediately stopped.
That's
Watch
the
rest of
remote
this.
drop.
Remote drop.
So when I used to allegedly sneak into Comic-Con.
We never got that story.
No. But when I used to allegedly sneak into Comic-Con, I used to quote that movie when I walked in the door. Badges.
Badges. We don't need no stinking badges.
And I just walked right on in.
That was more Italian than Mexican there, my friend.
And you're
Badges.
Mexican.
We don't
Hey
need
man,
no
I don't
stinking
claim
badges.
it. You know, I'm Latino, I'm Hispanic, as whatever you want me to be, senor.
El gallo negro.
I'm
The
not going to
baddest
try.
dude in the barrio. That's my that's my getting character.
Hold on,
voice.
let me give it a shot.
Also, if you've never seen Spaceballs, unsubscribe to our podcast.
Yeah.
Because what the fuck? Seriously, if you love Star Wars, you would have already seen Spaceballs.
Yeah,
That's a horrible
Spaceballs.
thing. So, speaking of Mel Brooks has been quoted to say, "Wit is shit, funny is money." So, I mean, when you look at his movies, he doesn't go for like really hard, clever jokes.
Yeah.
They're like, here they are.
Mel
hard
Brooks,
reference.
Blazing Saddles is the very first fart on film, on screen, or something like that. It's the very first fart joke.
No
It was the
way.
very first time like anyone farted. And it was just a bunch of dudes farting around the campfire. And I'm sure people lost their mind at that time because farts are still funny. And can you imagine, like, never once a movie showed farting, and then you're sitting in the theater back in whatever the 60s, 70s when that was, and
70s.
And just people started farting on movies. Like, I
Around
would have
the
been
campfire,
giggling. Yeah,
everyone's
because they
eating
were all
beans.
eating beans. Yeah, classic.
But so to take ourselves
Scatter.
out of the Mel Brooks parody spoof realm, my personal favorite is Kung Pao, Enter the Fist.
Oh, so cute.
But the reason why is not because, like, okay, we all love kung fu movies. We just, quoted like Black Dynamite. We all love our kung fu movies. Fucking grew up on that shit left and right. Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Chow Yun Fat. Give me some more.
Oh, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Pai Mei. He's a real guy, right?
Wow, jeez.
What are you talking? What?
That's the character in Kill
Kill
Bill.
Bill.
I'm sorry. Hold on. What?
The cruel to
Hold on.
Pai Mei.
You've never seen Kill Bill?
I've seen Kill Bill. I'm horrible with names.
It's the dude with the beard.
Okay.
That teaches her how to do the.
I'm also horrible with memory.
Five-finger death punch?
I drink a lot.
He's the one with the Fu Manchu,
Oh,
the white-haired Asian guy.
okay.
So anyway, Kung Pao.
Kung Pao.
But the reason why I love Kung Pao because it pays homage to all of the kung fu movies. It uses whatever existing kung fu movie that they're using, and then it like meticulously comps in. What's the actor's name? Odenkirk.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, his face into all of those things. They have some like on studio set stuff. But like most of it is like utilizing what's actually there and then just dubbing things in, kind of a la like Mystery Science Theater 3000. But
I love Mystery Science Theater.
so good,
Yeah.
and like Jonah Ray did a really good job, like taking the mantle of that, and you can check that out on Netflix. But it's such a fun movie. We quoted it. Me and Rudy quoted it on our last episode. My sister and I, hi Pearl. We quote that movie left and fucking right. I love that movie. I used to watch it over and over again and would never get tired of it because it was silly and it scratched that like just that silly itch.
It's one of those movies that I know it's good. When Rachel looks at it, it's just just sigh after sigh after sigh. Like, oh my god, this is so stupid. That's my meter right there. Oh, Rachel hates it. It has to be good. In those same vein, I think Shaolin Soccer and Kung Fu Hustle
Oh, I love Kung
deserve
Fu Hustle.
honorable
I love
mentions
both of those
absolutely.
movies.
in that category.
Hustle.
You haven't seen Kung Fu Hustle?
Oh, I've seen Kung Fu Hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to learn the axe dance that they do in that fucking movie and just film it just for fun.
That movie, it like starts off silly and it's and it plays parody to all the kung fu movies, and then it becomes real serious and becomes its own thing towards the third act, and it's like a badass like anime-esque kung fu movie.
Right.
So good. What makes a good before we go continue around the table? What makes a good spoof or parody movie for you guys?
It has to hold up on its own.
Okay.
Like it has to, like, it can't rely on the source material.
And yet another offshoot, like Mel Brooks is still alive, and but Mel Brooks then helped out with a sort of sequel, if you will, to oh shit, what the fuck is it? It's the history.
No, History of the World.
The history of the world, right? And
They did part 2 just recently. Yeah.
and it's like it's more of a show. And what I found is parodies and spoofs hit before like a certain year. I mean, I don't have like a hard year, but like after that, like I'm watching Nick Kroll and Wanda Sykes and all these other like big comedians, well-known comedians. They're saying these like Mel Brooks lines, and I'm like forcing my laughter because it.
When you say year, you mean like age or pre 1995 or something like that?
I don't know. So that's exactly it. Like, Scary Movie was, I don't know the exact year that it came out, but like there's just a certain era where these spoof and parody movies started to like kind of fall apart and kind of not work. And it wasn't because of their writing or anything like that. It was just, as a society, I think we grew out of them a little bit.
Scary Movie was in 2000.
And so
I have a great scary movie 2, I think specifically, story.
2001.
But real quick, I tried to continue to watch A History of the World on Hulu, and it just didn't hold up. I didn't continue watching it.
Well, I think comedy, we've talked about it before, that comedy itself has changed. I'm not going to pretend this is an original thought, and I think I might have mentioned it on the podcast before, but I've read someone else's opinion that Apatow really changed just the way we expect comedies to be.
I remember you saying that few episodes back. Yeah.
That we expect our comedies now to still be somewhat emotional, somewhat like attached to a real story, and like there's like character growth and just the idea of people telling stupid jokes or like stupid setups.
That sounds about right, because like as I'm watching, basically a contemporary Mel Brooks creation, History of the World Part 2, it just, there's no place for it to live in our world.
Which is a shame, because we just watched that stupid YouTube video. Like, we live in a world where like there's plenty of random internet memes and random YouTube videos and random TikToks that have no emotional like investment or like no story, and they're just a random stupid joke. But they're 45 seconds long versus a whole movie of it, and maybe that's the thing.
Yeah. So like that humor, like I think that our like meme humor, it bites off of that like parody stuff of the 80s and the 90s, but in full form, like full feature films and like whole series and stuff like that, I just don't think that it works, because you have suggested we watch I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson, excuse me. And I had checked it out.
What?
Yeah.
I've never even heard of that
The
movie.
face Doug made just now.
I didn't even know the name of the show. I just saw that clip, and Bill has shown me, my uncle has shown me more of that clips.
So I watched it, and it's like
the weirdest thing. Shit
ADHD combined with like fucking just like.
I am pretty sure
hyperactivity.
I'm pretty sure that guy made that show just so he can make memes, because that's the.
It's
Are you
memeable.
sure about that?
Yeah.
You sure about
there's
that?
so many things
That's
that are
that guy.
memeable. Yeah. And it just is some of that, like that comedy just doesn't work.
Oh yeah, no, but going into more parodies and or spoofs, Hot Shots.
Shamey.
Absolutely. There was 2 of them. You
Because
didn't
I'm
see
born in
either
the
of them?
90s and I haven't seen that movie. I've seen clips. Up leading up until our episode, I was continuing to see clips of that movie.
You look like
so-
the kind of person that would have Charlie Sheen tattooed on your ass. Like,
Yeah, Tiger Blood.
There's
winning.
no room. Like, I was doing research of our topic. There's so many fucking parody and
So many.
There's a lot.
fucking
There's a
many.
lot more than I like thought about.
I was talking to friends and listeners of the show, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna do this movie and that movie?" I was like, "I didn't know that existed." I remember that one.
Yeah.
Vaguely, but I had never seen it. You know,
There's too many.
Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part 2.
yeah.
So Hot Shots was certainly Top Gun.
Yes.
Certainly a spoof on Top Gun. And then Part 2 was more Rambo.
Yeah.
But again, just that stupid humor. That just it's just funny.
That's
it just
the
makes you
clip
laugh.
that I saw on TikTok. Is I think it was might have been Hot Shots Part D, where they're getting ready to like paratroop, right? And they're like going down the line, and they're hooking their lines on, and they're going down, and Geronimo, and like one guy is just like on the bus, he's holding on the thing, and then like the actual like Native American Geronimo goes, "Me!" Yes, yeah, perfect. It's just perfect. Well, okay, what I find
that's the thing.
what I find fucking hilarious about that shit is it's a stupid joke, right? It's a silly joke, but they had to costume a guy.
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking
That's
of
what makes all of this is funny. It's all fucking stupid, but they maybe took multiple shots of it.
I have to fucking interject with like no segue, but the king of parody, the king of spoof is Leslie Nielsen.
Yes.
Yeah,
I was about to say, like, we're not leaving here without mentioning him.
I had to. Tribute. And so I grew up watching the Naked Gun series.
Yeah.
And up until like earlier this year, I didn't know that it was
Police Squad.
I didn't know that. It blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, I need to find a place to watch that because like a lot of my humor is like based off of like cartoony stuff and Jim Carrey and Robin Williams and like it's all of that like extremeness, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And Leslie Nielsen, he just holds a place in my heart when it comes to that. That being said, he is featured in a number of the scary movie franchise. Like I think 3 and on, he's featured in it. I think one time as a president, but like he and then he's in Airplane, and it just he's able to play the straight man and act as if he's in this like really serious movie. He never winks at the camera. He plays it straight all the time.
I love how much of the jokes in those movies and the show were just like playing with language, playing with words.
Yeah.
Or like I saw a clip recently.
Well, surely you must be kidding.
Oh, yeah. I'm not, and don't call me Shirley. Yeah, exactly. Or just like, oh, what was he doing in the red light district? Well, sex, Frank? Not right now. We got to solve this case. Like, just those, like, there's so much of that, and I love it. They're just like, yeah.
And so, there, again, standing Hulu, there is a show on Hulu called Angie Tribeca, starring Rashida Jones. And it fucking features Alfred Molina as the medical examiner, which I didn't expect at all. Because Alfred Molina is a high caliber actor, and he's just like this silly medical examiner. Check that out if you have the chance, because that show completely pays homage to any and all Leslie Nielsen movies. Sure. Definitely put
what
that at the top. Angie Tribeca. So and I believe the first episode, there's a scene where they're chasing a perp, and the perp happens to know parkour, and so he's flipping and spinning over all this stuff, and the support character is also doing all that stuff, but it's obviously like a body double. And
I love when they do that.
And it is a long sequence, and it's an exhausting sequence, and all I can think of is, wow, somebody actually like did those stunts and they choreographed all that shit for the fucking joke. And I love it. I love the commitment for that joke, for that like paying homage to like everything parody and everything spoof. Angie Tribeca has gone under the radar.
That's one of those fun things that a lot of these spoof movies, and going back to like Mel Brooks, is not only are they spoofing a specific movie, but there is the larger commentary on movie making in general. And I love like in Men in Tights when it's like, I lost? I'm not supposed to lose. And they all pull out the script, right? Or you were mentioning like you could see the sound, the mic in Black Dynamite, like or in Spaceballs, right? Like
they're very meta.
We caught the doubles. Like
Spaceballs Mel Brooks is extremely meta.
Like they pull out the VHS of Spaceballs and they're watching themselves, and it's like, what are we watching now? We're watching right now, not then. No, now,
no, not then. Now, yeah.
And they do the whole like look at the camera and then But again, I mean, it's like I don't know if I mentioned before on the show, but I love movies, about making movies, and then so any of these parody movies, the fact that they make fun of or they get meta about movie making is just it tickles fancy.
Now I know that like Deadpool is not a spoof nor a meta movie or person or genre or whatever, but he does go like meta, and it uses those same devices.
Once a character breaks the fourth wall, they get into a little bit of that meta world, and that like. Again, tickles the fancy and the taint.
Now, to veer
I thought that was the fancy. What the hell?
It's a part. Like the taint. It's like you break your tongue up into multiple like tastings, even though that's a myth.
I get it.
But yeah, your taint is like the fancy, and I don't know.
Oh, you've never had me bend over far enough. My taint has tattooed on it fancy.
Okay.
So I wanted to then argue some movies that I don't know if they're...
Come at me, bro.
I think they're more spoofs than anything else, But it was on when I was doing research. They were on the list, right?
Spoof parodies.
One of them was Zombieland. Would that follow?
No.
That is absolutely a parody. No.
I would say
Spoof.
no. I would say it's neither.
No. Satire. No. Never mind.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
just it's a comedic entry
Yes.
in the zombie genre.
Fuckers. It's yeah. No,
like-
Doug, you hit it there.
Certain things have a genre, and then you can have a comedic entry into it.
Yeah.
So I would say no for that. And then my question, I think I asked you guys earlier, was The Boys.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Yeah. I would say at a very basic level, yes, because the Seven is absolutely supposed to be
Justice League.
The Justice League.
Yeah.
And then they've obviously like mentioned referenced Marvel
Twilight.
characters as well. But
But I think that's still more of a, I don't want to say real world, but like a more realistic take on what superheroes would be in a consumer driven society as opposed to what DC peddles or what Marvel peddles. Or
yeah, it was maybe like, I don't, is there a phrase for like non-comedic parody?
Brightburn.
that's
the
not a
phrase.
phrase I've ever heard.
Yeah, is that
Brightburn is if Superman at a young age went bad.
Yeah, but what
That's
would you
a
call
movie,
that?
but-
But what would you call that?
You would call it Brightburn.
A light
should
burn.
we start calling it Brightburn?
Yeah. I mean,
Should
that's
we like put that on the wiki?
We'll make that the fucking
Urban Dictionary?
it's a subgenre
A
category.
Or we can ask-
non-funny parody.
We can ask the audience.
What term should we use for a non-funny parody?
My tainted loves.
Answer me this in the DMs.
or the
Taint-
comment section.
Taint you very much.
Anyway, what was more on your list of fight me shit?
Shaun of the Dead.
I was waiting for that one.
Yeah.
Because I want to hear opinions.
Which, by the way, Edgar Wright, director, I fucking love Shaun of the Dead. That is one of my rainy day movies. I can never get enough of it. There's always something new I can watch.
Warm up your finger.
Okay.
I haven't seen it.
Holy
Shit, man.
shit.
I'm done. I'm out of here. I can't take this shit no more.
I'm fucking leaving too. What is it, drink time?
Wait a minute. Is Shaun of the Dead officially part of the Cornetto trilogy? It's fucking the cop with Hot Fuzz. Is it At World's End?
Oh,
I love
Is Shaun of the Dead one of
World's
those
End.
three?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Simon Pegg and Nick
I didn't want to
Frost.
look it up. I just wanted you to tell me.
Yeah, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. They made their debut together as Sean and
Of the Dead?
no fuck. What's his friend's name?
Dead. That's why it's Shaun of
Of
the
the.
Dead.
it. Could be of the, and then they're dead.
Oh, I'm blanking out really hard.
Ed.
Ed, right?
Ed.
Ed
Yeah.
209.
And then they started together in
The World's End. Sorry. Not
Then they
At
started
World's
together in
Yeah.
Hot Fuzz, and then started together
That's
in
Simon Pegg, right?
World's End. Yeah.
You know what Simon Pegg was in? Star Trek.
Talk about Star Trek.
Yeah. That's the Star Wars thing. What the fuck?
Fuck.
Jeez.
Right off,
right
Doug.
But I mean, from what I know of Shaun of the Dead, again, would that just be a comedic entry into the zombie genre, or were they parodying?
I mean, the its title
spoofing?
itself is a playoff of Dawn of the Dead.
True.
Takes no place in a mall.
But you could say the same thing with Hot Fuzz, though, right? When you look at a movie like Bad Boys or something like that, you know, those type of action movies, and you look at Hot Fuzz, is there a thing there, or is it just its own?
It's its own. So Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and At World's End are most definitely their own thing in their own worlds. Yet they have some references, some slight cultural references. Like in Hot Fuzz, Nick Frost's character asks Simon Pegg, "Have you ever shot your gun up in the air and went, aw?" "No, I never shot my gun up in the air and went, aw." You know, alluding to
The Keanu Reeves movie, right?
I blanked out fucking
I
hard.
can't think of it.
Patriot Games? No. Point Break.
Yeah, Point Break.
I knew it
yes.
was a P.
Alluding to Point Break.
That's how my filing cabinet works. Yeah. Stop doing it like that.
It's like a Rolodex. Kids, if you want to know what a Rolodex is, DM me.
What's a Rolodex? Is that like Dexter's Laboratory on rollerblades?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, but speaking of
Terrible.
of the animated stuff, would you guys consider Archer and Rick and Morty
Yes.
parodies or
Rick and Morty,
spoofs?
no. Archer, yes.
Well,
Why wouldn't you consider Rick and Morty when it's kind of
Back to the Future.
The,
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm
characters are kind of a parody of previous
Doc
characters.
Brown and
yeah.
McFly.
But
I mean, remember that live action like ad spot with Christopher Lloyd?
Michael J. Fox.
He wasn't in it.
He was in it? Damn,
No.
I don't know. I'm not as much of a nerd as you guys think I am. I'm fucking faking all of
yeah,
this.
Let's just say that footage was a little shaky.
ah, fucking shit. I was waiting for you guys supposed to shut up so I could work that in. I was like, they tried to cast him, but it was a little shaky, so they just, left him out.
Hey, Rudy, edit Isaac out. It's still his shine. It's still his shine.
Take it.
No, but Rick and Morty is that, to use their own term, high concept science fiction adventures. I guess if you want to call it a parody of Back to the Future, because that was a very specific time travel adventure, and Rick and Morty does everything else.
Yeah, they're their own
interdimensional.
thing. Yeah.
So,
Multiverse.
like, if you want to call it a parody, what is it parodying? Parodying.
I would say
Parademons?
It's sci-fi in general, but again, maybe it's just a comedic entry into that genre.
I would say it at least took inspiration from Back to the Future, of like this mad scientist and this like really nerdy introverted kid.
Yeah, but inspiration
yeah.
is not.
To
It
call
doesn't
it a
lean into
direct
it.
spoof of it is kind of stretching.
Yes,
it.
that's the thing.
Me, it's kind of stretching it.
We need to find a word, but I don't consider it a direct spoof because, like he said, it branches off into so much more than what it's kind of spoofing off of. So I don't really consider it
Maybe more inspired by it as opposed to.
inspired by it. But speaking of it, I just watched the last season.
Oh, I think I'm a whole season back.
I can't
Or two.
wait until the next season, but that's for another time.
Speaking of science fiction spoofs, and then maybe this is the thing with Rick and Morty, where it might very well have started off as a parody or a spoof, and then grew into its own
It's
thing.
like Back to the Future on crack, almost.
Shrooms.
The Orville.
Ooh.
I think that's a great example. I mean, that's what it's absolutely. I mean, I don't even know if I want to say it's absolutely a spoof of Star Trek. That's
It's a
what
spoof.
Seth MacFarlane put it as, but it's also like a love letter to
then-
Star Trek.
yeah, but
it's Star Trek in Seth MacFarlane's humor, but it grew into its own thing.
That's
I haven't
exactly it.
watched much of this last season, but I've heard it's become like a thing. Like it's no longer
more of a homage.
It's yeah, it's
Homage?
it's definitely an homage, but I mean the first few times I watched it, it's certainly just a parody of spoof of Star Trek, specifically the Next Generation.
Right.
But again, I think it became its own thing, which is cool when that happens. Austin Powers is another great example of something that was like a spoof or a parody of Bond or any of these spy movies that kind of became its own thing, and I'd love that.
Speaking of that, segue, Austin Powers. Where does that fall into? Spoof?
I think he
Parody?
just said started off as a spoof and then kind of grew into its own thing.
I love when things
I would
grow
like
into
to
their own
suggest
thing.
that
Yeah.
you pay better attention
What happened?
in the future.
Was that?
Exactly.
Come again?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously was
Big
it's like a
competitor?
James Bond, thing, but it certainly became its own thing, and it's a cultural phenomenon. And
Let's say Beyonce
just-
as like your co-star.
oh, they had quite a few though, right? Beyonce, and then
Dude, it went even super meta. Go ahead.
What's her name?
roller skates from porn movie.
Heather Graham.
Heather Graham.
Ooh, Heather
And
Graham.
then she was in the second one, and then who was in the first one?
Oh,
Elizabeth
Vanessa.
Oh,
Elizabeth Hurley.
Yeah.
Jesus fucking
Really,
Christ.
yeah.
Bedazzled. Oh.
Yeah. And
And the sequel.
icons like Mini Me and
Bedazzled?
Mike Myers playing the Scottish guy. Get in my belly.
Oh, no, Austin Powers definitely has some classic characters.
Those movies. I mean, that was like the age where you just every you quoted movies constantly, and it's like Austin Powers is one of those things that every time I ate anything, get in my belly. Like, yeah.
I saw an advertisement for whatever car company, and like Dr. Evil and Seth Green like were back on it and everything. Like, and oh shit, who played number 2? Like the young version number 2, really sexy guy. He's on Parks and Rec.
Oh, he's very sexy.
I don't remember.
Anyways,
He's in like a fire engine company series right now.
maybe.
Oh, is it? I didn't know there was.
Wayne's
I didn't know
World.
there was
There's a lot of
Chicago 457 or shit like that. I don't know.
I don't watch enough.
Rob Lowe.
Oh, Rob Lowe.
Rob
yeah.
Lowe.
Gotcha, bitch.
Yeah, I don't watch enough like network TV. I'm always curious, like what's the current fire and what's the current cop one? Like, there's always a fire and a cop.
Me
right?
neither, but like we travel to other people's houses and they'll be watching TV. I'm like, holy shit, that still exists, like network TV. And you'll see a commercial for it. I'm like, oh shit, that's what he's doing nowadays.
Yeah.
But Austin Powers also did like an in-movie thing where they had a movie about Austin Powers, and Austin Powers was then played by Tom Cruise. It was amazing.
I love how
Tom
much
Cruise could do anything. Goddammit!
I love how much Tom Cruise is willing to like show up and just do those things.
I love Tom
Like, he's
Cruise
the
in
last-
Tropic Thunder.
Yeah,
Thunder was
another one.
Yeah. And he's like the last action star, right? Like, it's fucking Tom Cruise.
Okay, okay,
but he'll
okay.
be like, yeah, I'll go do your shit.
But is
whatever.
is that more of a spoof off of like actors themselves?
Where does that land?
What,
Because
Tropic Thunder?
Yeah, because it's not
Yeah.
a spoof of any particular genre.
No.
I mean, maybe it's a spoof of like the 60s.
Of, like,
Vietnam.
Hollywood
Apocalypse
themselves.
Now or something like that.
But it's not about the movie, it's about the actors making the movie in the movie. So where does that land?
Spoof on
where does that
Hollywood?
hit?
I know who I am. I'm the dude playing the dude disguised as another dude.
Hold on. You can't just-
Black alert.
Turn your keys, sir. I've been waiting for that so fucking long. Turn your key. Oh no, that was fucking perfect though. That was a perfect impression. I fucking love it.
Nicely done.
But okay, answer my fucking question. Where does it fall? Where does it fall?
Under
I don't know if it would. Just comedy, right?
that word that we're looking for.
meta,
thing.
Meta comedy?
That thing.
So, like, to veer away a little bit from the movies, I want to give like an honorable mention to something that also formed my dysfunctional comedic brain. Matt TV, not SNL, but Matt TV would usually do a lot of like parody and spoofs of, whatever current movies and shows that were going on. I mean, fuck, they had like Will Sasso playing Steven Seagal, who was like talking to the real David Carradine. The guy's trying to snap his neck.
Oh man, I hope this isn't fake because I just saw it. Steven Seagal had a album where he used a Jamaican voice,
Oh dear Lord, I hope
and
not.
like the first line was something about the punani. Yeah,
He's a fascinating person.
yeah.
There are only bad stories about him.
Yes.
In the
But-
greatest ways.
He had. I mean, I don't. Steven Seagal. There was apparently some move that he mastered, and then like people from all over the MMA world were like traveling to learn some fucking kick or something.
Bullshit.
I don't know. I saw it once where it was just like, yeah, I got to go learn this fucking kick from Steven Seagal.
All I know about him, other than his like fucking sissy run, is that he didn't know jack shit about kung fu.
Yeah. And he was in Under Siege, which is again one of those movies that I watched just for the fucking
Oh my god,
naked girl popping
Thank
out of the
you.
cake. Yeah.
Thank you, Ellen. Ellen something.
Yeah.
I forget her last name.
I
Ellen Titties. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
It was just-
I know that was just a thing of that time period, and it was
not Ellen.
sexist or whatever,
Yes.
and it was that fan service. But there was something about just that time period as a young man, a young boy, of just like, I'm gonna watch this action movie, and I know full well there's gonna be that like 3-second titty clip, and I hate admitting it, but it's like, yeah, 13-year-old boy, I loved it. So going back to funny spoof movies, Airplane had. I saw you biting at the bit. You want to take it?
Oh,
God
he wants to
damn,
take it.
those beautiful 70s, 80s jiggly bits.
And it was random. I mean, again, I feel awkward just talking about titty scenes. I mean, maybe that's a whole
My
episode.
God, let's talk about them. They look to be like about a full D, The left one is a little bit more asymmetrical than the right one.
There was a scene in Airplane, which again is a Leslie Nielsen movie. I don't know if it was really spoofing anything.
I think it's safe to say that that might be his first spoof or parody movie.
What was it spoofing though? Was there a lot of Airplane movies at that time? Yeah.
Maybe. The 70s and 80s were like a very weird time. There was like, St. Elmo's Fire and whatever the fuck else. But
I do feel like that time period in movies was just like, I don't know, what exists? Truck drivers? Okay, we can do a truck driver movie.
There really was,
what else exists? Chess players? We can do was there arm wrestling? We can do an arm wrestling movie.
I mean,
that was in the 80s, right?
Over the top, yeah.
Over the top, yeah.
I mean, we had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as a pilot, a co-pilot, so that was cool.
But in one of the random panic, like nobody panic, everyone was panicking, of course. And then just a girl popped out in front and just.
We had some like prepubescent kids talking about like I like my coffee, how I like my men. It was really weird. It was a really weird time. It was really weird.
It was really weird. Oh man. I don't know. I feel like we can go on and on. I don't know if did we cover anything? We talked about some stuff.
Sorry, my personal favorite though is fucking Julie Haggerty. Julie Haggerty, if you don't know, you probably know her in What About Bob? But she is like the stewardess in Airplane, and she's this very like mild mannered and very like soft spoken,
like meek. Is that the word?
Very meek.
Yeah,
yeah, and she like partakes in the conversation of like, oh, I speak jive.
Yeah.
There's certain humor that doesn't work in movies nowadays. That's like what's like as far as like going back to the whole Mel Brooks pool is like, dude, there's some shit you can't do or say now unless you're like Quentin Tarantino and have like Sam Jackson backing you. You know what I mean? There was a time where humor was exactly that. It was just pure comedy. You could take the power away from these serious topics. Man, it ain't the same. I think that's why parody and spoof movies just don't work nowadays.
I don't want to get into a long conversation about this, but I think part of it is because as opposed to back then, now we live in a world with a lot of data, and I think we have a greater knowledge of what damage can be caused by even a joke. And yeah, maybe there's some overcorrection to it, but I think we recognize the influence that a movie can have and something. And we've talked about this where like, when you go into a comedy show or watching a movie,
you sign up for what's going to happen.
You sign up for what's going, but maybe not everyone does. And I think that's the fear of making some jokes that could be, and I don't want to use the word offensive because that's been so like demonized, but I think there's a fear that jokes can normalize thoughts that could lead to violence. And we have the data now that supports that they didn't in the past. And I think there's just a fear of contributing to violence that I think that movie makers and book writers and everyone has, where even though it could be a funny joke, but if it can normalize thoughts to someone that could then turn that into violence, I don't think people want to be a part of it. And it sucks for the rest of us that are normal and sane that just recognize a joke's a joke. And it absolutely sucks.
I will say, and I mean, it's going down like a darker route, especially since we're talking about like spoofs and comedies and stuff like that. But like, since you brought it up, I have to disagree with you. So I don't think that the creators should hold responsibility for like what the fucking, you said it yourself, like all the rest of us sane people can enjoy this.
I'm not saying they should be held responsible, but I think that they're second guessing themselves.
I get you. I feel you. And then there's some that don't, and then you have like little establishments like the Comedy Mothership that Joe Rogan has created. And it's like, we all know this is a safe realm where like comedy can live at its purest, whatever the fuck that means. Using the hard R's, using the hard F's. Don't think it. No. Don't think it, Doug. There goes your meter.
Not a fan.
But it's man, parodies and spoofs, they hold a very dear place in my heart. I unfortunately don't think that any newer ones can come out that'll scratch that itch that the older ones did. You know, I don't know exactly when that cutoff was, but it happened. It happened somewhere, and it may not have been as.
Do you think it's actually a time thing, or just you've gotten older?
No, because I can go back to all of the aforementioned movies and still enjoy those jokes and that comedy, because I can then live in the I can view those jokes in the perspective that it is meant to be in, which is like the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s.
But I guess what I mean by that, I think just our expectations of movie making in general has just changed. I think going back, like Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, like grounded superhero movies. So now every superhero that gets made has to be grounded. Apatow changed comedies. Like it just, we just expect so much more. And so maybe the parody or the spoof movie just doesn't exist in theaters, but we have so many streaming options. Maybe it can pop up in that, but then you're competing with so much, and us as an audience, are we going to actually click like, oh, this one is spoofing this other random? And maybe that's also the thing, is that there's so many movies that come out constantly that maybe none of them are worth spoofing. Oppenheimer, right? I can see someone, if Oppenheimer came out in the 80s or 90s, someone would spoof it.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish someone would spoof it at this point, because it's probably the most serious. It's such a serious movie, it deserves a spoof. But all we've had in the past years are just superhero movies and Star Wars movies that nothing's worth spoofing.
So, go ahead.
I think that spoofs do exist, but they don't exist in feature films directed by Mel Brooks anymore. I think that they exist on SNL. I think they exist on, if Matt TV were to still exist, but bringing it into the contemporary realm, I think they exist on TikToks and Instagrams, where people are making their own thing. They're making their own
YouTube
forms of
video.
comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know, where you know, the unfortunate part is now YouTube and TikTok and Instagram will now flag and pull those things down. So, you know, it's starting to become a failing thing.
There's a YouTube channel I love, Viva La Dirt, that just spoofs video games, spoofs World of Warcraft, spoofs PUBG and stuff all the time. So they do still exist. It's just a different media.
To me, it feels like we hit a point somewhere in like the early 2000s where it was like there was such a rush to cash in on the spoof movies, on the parodies, that they started churning them out.
You saw that long list of like bullshit movies.
And the quality just went into the toilet. Like there's funny silly, there's smart silly, and then there's just dumb silly.
So I think that falls into like just regular Hollywood, where you have that one movie that like changes the whole genre, and then everyone else goes, we got to do that.
Yeah, and like let's rush to push out, you know, as much
they
content
just
as we
chase
can.
the cash cow, because it's one of those things where they it is a recipe that's in Hollywood. When something sparks and it does do good in the theater, you see a lot of other studios start to try to come out with something similar.
Yeah.
You know, for example, they had the movie with what was it? The White House Down or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then they had the Jamie Foxx and Channing Tatum movie,
White House Down. I don't know. They're
There's
the
like
same movie.
It was like the Eagles Fallen movies, and then the White House Down. Yeah.
Yeah. There's
they
there's
had
a whole series with Gerard Butler. Yeah.
They had the Gerard Butler one, and then they had the Channing Tatum and I believe it was Jamie Foxx movie.
Look that
and
one up.
it's just one of those things that you see that a lot in Hollywood. You know, you have a banger, and then other studios try to follow suit, just like what's going on right now with the superhero genre.
Yeah.
You know,
I was gonna say
they're taking it, but I feel like now they're running it into the ground, because, you know, they're trying to push these things out quick, and even with the quality and the story, and they just expect people to just go, and they're gonna automatically make $1 billion.
And it's just
that's not the case.
And it's just like that. I think we hit a fatigue point where you don't want to see those movies anymore. You want to see different stories, and I think we hit that point, and we've moved off of those for now. And maybe like things do, it'll come back around.
I hope so. I really do.
But you put that hand in hand with the PC culture and not our tendency, but people's tendency to overcorrect, so that you can't touch anything because everything is potentially offensive to someone.
Right.
So I think there's probably going to take some time for that to equal out.
But I think you could make a spoof or a parody without that kind of quote unquote offensive comedy.
You
It wasn't always.
can.
I mean, like Men in Tights wasn't. I mean, I guess it was the whole Men in Tights. I guess would probably be considered anti-LGBTQ plus.
That's exactly
Comedy
it.
now, but it was never direct. I feel like, I mean, comedy exists. Comedy exists without offensiveness, and I think we just haven't seen the parody movies in a while because there's nothing to parody. It's all superhero movies right now, and we've already had the parody of it.
But I think that the parody, like the level, the caliber of like parody and spoofs exist, but it has to come from somebody who's doing it cleverly, like at the level that Mel Brooks was doing it.
It's going to take someone who does it at that high level that brings them the money, and then we'll start seeing the slew of movies again.
Because wit is shit and funny is money.
The bigger thing that I think no one will accept is the stupidity of some of those movies. Which, I mean, it's great stupidity, but I mean, some of the humor in those Leslie Nielsen movies was like literally playing with the idea of sets, of like walking in front of a fake wall.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of stuff that I don't know if today's audience is ready for, or not ready for, but like will accept. So I think the idea of the comedy would have to change a little bit, but I think we could still spoof again something like Oppenheimer, something like one of these serious movies. We could still spoof it without even approaching that realm of like, is this offensive? Is this not offensive? I just don't know if we can do the stupidity quite as much.
So as far as like the stupidity, like it's how you deliver said stupidity, and Mel Brooks did it in a very like vaudevillian way that it just doesn't translate nowadays. And again, I implore listeners and you guys to watch A History of the World Part 2 and tell me what you think, because it's exactly what like Mel Brooks would have done back then. It's just now and with like actors and comedians that we know. And it just for whatever reason like doesn't work. Yeah.
Have you guys seen it? The fucking Hunchback movie that they just did, Quasi.
No.
Oh, with the Broken Lizard.
Yeah,
team?
Broken Lizard.
I haven't seen it. It's
but
floating
that's
around.
a parody,
Broken
right?
Lizard Club.
But that's another great. Broken Lizard is another like funny one. But I need to watch Quasi because that's certainly like a parody of the Hunchback of Notre Dame thing, and I'd be curious how much of that is like, can they pull it off in the modern world? Because it seems what's the word I'm looking for? Like ripe for just wrong humor.
Well, speaking of like the Broken Lizard Club, like
they're
that.
taking a big swing at religion, so
Yeah,
like from the trailer.
I'm fine.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Broken Lizard
Sorry,
is
Buttplugs.
Yeah.
The fucking smutly laugh. Jesus.
It's Muttley, not Smuttley.
I mean-
you fucking dirty minded motherfucker. Smuttley, the XXX version of the dog.
We didn't even touch on Super Troopers. My God. And Police Academy.
so.
Oh my god, the Police Academy movies.
With that, I mean,
Classic comedies, though. I don't know. If
not a spoof.
So, like you mentioned, Broken Lizard Club, and like that's another one that also like they have their own close knit group, like the way Adam Sandler does, and they do parody stuff. Like what is it, Club Dread, parodies or spoofs,
Beer Fest,
slasher films, Beer Fest. There's another one. It's not Broken Lizard, but Harold and Kumar sort of play off like the whole like Cheech and Chong, like stoner movie things, stuff like that, where they reference certain things that play along that same genre, but they make it their own thing, and that's exactly what a spoof. In my opinion, that's what a spoof or a parody movie should be. Is where they reference some stuff, but they ultimately make it their own thing.
Absolutely.
But that's where like that whole when you were mentioning like that list of like bullshit movies that were coming out, like the probably the only one that I saw after like the scary movies was superhero movie, And it was funny because it referenced some of the superhero movies at the time, but it then had too many references, like current pop culture references at the time. It just doesn't work, and so it fell off on that aspect. But there were some parts of the movie that worked. I've never seen Meet the Spartans. I've never seen Date Movie. I've never seen. I mean, you name it. Oh, I've seen Not Another Teen Movie. I think we've all seen that.
I was going to say what's almost funny about it is that they were making commentary as to what you were saying, where Hollywood, people like these movies, we're going to make a bunch of them. So we're going to make a bunch of teen movies. And then the spoof people were like, all right, we're going to make Not Another Teen Movie, making fun of it. But then eventually we had too many spoof movies making fun of Hollywood's oversaturation. And then we got an oversaturation of the comedy, the parody of oversaturation. And then we had the shift. I think ultimately we just had the shift of where movies had to be these down to earth, grounded things. And
they shift into all that stuff. Like, what was mentioned, the horror genre. That was a big, spoof, whatever you want to say, spoof or parody, but it was a big thing at a time because you had all these horror movies that were coming out, like the Paranormal Activity. You had the Scream movies.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Yeah.
All those teen kind of horror movies. And it was just Hollywood once again, seeing that's the thing that's happening. Those are the movies that's coming out, so we're gonna make a parody of those. So you just had a whole saturated movie of all the horror genres.
I have a movie for your list, Isaac. 30 Nights of Paranormal Activity with the Devil Inside the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Text me that one. I'm not writing that shit down.
Yes.
Yeah. And you know what? I
love it. Let's end it with that.
Yeah. I'm gonna put a button on that one, you guys.
Put a butt plug in it.
Oh, fucking die!
I'm gonna put a plug in that right there.
If it exists, there's a porn of it somewhere, right?
I'm gonna plug in that.
Okay.
And that's as good a butt as any.
God, I'm still new at it. So check us out on all the social medias, on Instagram, on TikTok, at The Hype Attack.
Yeah, keep the conversation going. Spoofs and parodies. I mean, we brought up a lot of questions that I don't know if we came to a consensus. What are we laughing about? I don't know if we came to a consensus about, can they exist today? I don't know. We'll make a post and then you guys can comment on it.
Yeah, we'll ask you guys. Yeah, we have. Can it exist today?
Yeah. Or what movie or genre would you like to see a spoof about? There we go. That's a good one.
And let us know some of your favorite spoof parody movies.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any last words?
No.
No, we're done.
Fuck do I ever
This
have?
is a long
He never does.
Cowabunga.
Hey guys, check us out next Friday. Same Hype time.
Same Hype channel.
Hype attack.
Where the white women at?